Sometimes people treat the Bible like an answer book. You just learn to look at the right place in the back and everything will become clear. God's will about abortion, immigration, the death penalty, when the world will end. When you read just the first parable of today's reading and the little explanation Jesus gives to his disciples, you can fall into that kind of learn the code mentality. Just learn to decipher and everything will be clear. It's a parable about sowing seed. You grow out, you throw some seed in a field. It falls all over the place. Some of it doesn't sprout at all. Some sprouts, but on rocks it grows a lousy root system. Some gets choked out, and some thrives and produces. Let anyone who has ears pay attention. Then his followers get him alone. What's the deal with these parables? Oh, Jesus says, for you the secrets are revealed. But for those outsiders, I have to speak to them in parables because otherwise there's a danger they might understand and turn, and in this translation, be forgiven. I think that translation also feeds that kind of secret code mentality. I'm suspicious of it. The first thing that makes me suspicious is Jesus being concerned that, oh no, people might be forgiven. Mr. Forgiveness? Tossing it around so freely that the authorities call him on it? So I looked it up and I was relieved to see that the word has a much broader range of meaning. Not just forgiven, but freed, set loose. There's a way that Jesus somehow wants people to keep tangled up. Doesn't sound all that Jesus-y either, but I keep going. For you, the secrets are revealed. I wonder if there's a little smile on Jesus' face when he says this. A little hint of laughter in the eyes. Because he obviously knows that even those close to him don't get this particular parable. You don't get this one? How are you going to get any of the parables then? And after the explanation, he talks more about revelation. Putting the lamp on a lampstand, not hiding it under the bed. Nothing is hidden except to be revealed. Nothing is secret except to come to light. And again, let anyone who has ears pay attention. Oh yeah. Understanding is special for you, for us. But for those others, they're not supposed to get it. Then in another planting parable, somebody scatters seed and leaves it. Seems to forget about it, but the seed, neglected as it is, sprouts anyhow. And when it's ripe, the planter has the sense to harvest it. And then another one, there's this mustard seed. Such a dinky seed, shouldn't be able to get anything out of it. And look what a big shrubby plant it can be. Again, Mark reminds us that Jesus is only telling parables, except to the disciples. He explains anything to them. So they really know what he's all about, right? Well, right after our reading for today ends, at the very end of this chapter, there's the story of the disciples out on the lake with Jesus. When the storm comes up, Jesus is taking a nap while the rest of them are afraid for their lives. He quiets the storm and then scolds them for their fear, for their lack of faith, for not getting it. And they wonder, just what kind of guy is this? Stories like that keep coming up in Mark. That's why I think there must have been at least a twinkle of amusement in Jesus' eyes when he says, understanding is for the special ones like you. Those others, I teach this way just to mystify them. See, the disciples are as mystified as anyone. Understanding is not special for them. There is something hidden and mysterious about the commonwealth of heaven. There's something necessarily hidden about it. Think back to that second parable, the one where the planter plants the seed and then seems to forget about it. Leaving it alone in the dark is a necessary part of the process by which it comes to grow, to sprout and grow. If we keep reading the Gospel of Mark, we'll see that the disciples never do understand. He keeps scolding them for being so clueless, keeps grieving that he is stuck among such dolts. Even wonders, how long am I going to have to put up with you? So, what's going on? How does it make sense that the crowds are taught in parables, which they don't understand, although they keep following anyway, and the disciples get taught more directly and still don't get it? Could it be that understanding is overrated? That Jesus teaches the crowds in parables because parables are open-ended, because they don't enable people to go through their lives as if they have an answer key to every question in the problem of life. Parables leave people unsettled. And maybe unsettled is a better word for what I didn't like in the translation, forgiven. The work of the parables still goes on inside those who hear them, even when we aren't consciously thinking about it. Sort of the way that seeds might germinate in the dark, underground, when no one is looking. So then, why does Jesus explain things to the disciples, huh? Doesn't that give them just the kind of false confidence that Jesus avoids with the crowds by using parables? Well, see, the advantage that the disciples have is Jesus is right there in person. So when they get complacent or overconfident, he's right there to ask them, do you still not get it? How long am I going to have to put up with such a batch of clueless wonder kids? And they keep following him. Not because he gives them all the answers, but because he has caught their imagination. His parables open them to a world of possibilities. This is their leap of faith, going along for the ride into a future of divine imagination. We live in an age and a culture that values answers, clear answers, absolute answers. Ambiguity is a problem. And I know it's not just our age, not just our culture. Easy answers have always been appealing, just not available. What's distinctive about our postmodern times is that we know, if we pay attention, that absolute answers are not available in this life. Authoritarian leaders are glad to erase the ambiguity, give you a resounding "because I said so," and teach you to quiet your doubts. Enforce that quieting of your doubts until maybe you don't even hear them inside your own head anymore. But the doubts, the what if, just for the sake of argument, and how about, we need them. They're what keep the seed watered and fed. They're what will bring about that germination and help build the tree or the shrub that was latent in the seed all along. And there's this assurance. Nothing is hidden except to be revealed. Nothing is secret except to come to light. Believing that in this postmodern age is our own leap of faith. Not that we have all the answers, but that in relationship with the holy, we remain open to life and possibility and illumination. In the meantime, here we are in our not knowing, almost making peace with not knowing, except for this little bit of text that tells us there is enlightenment at the end of the journey. Maybe that's lest we become too satisfied with our not knowing. Which reminds me of something that bothered me in one of Christian Wyman's essays in his book Zero at the Bone. He was responding to a poem by Yehuda Amichai, and he wrote, "You can make an idolatry of doubt. You can become so comfortable with God's absence and distance that eventually your own unknowingness gives you a big, fat, apophatic hug. One could argue that when doubt becomes the path of least resistance, it becomes the very thing that a faithful person must resist." Well, if he's right about that, then it's our job to keep the hope alive, the trust that there is enlightenment, even though we're still buried underground. There's a lot we don't understand. And that might include most of the most important stuff. Not knowing is the only honest place to be, and yet if Jesus is to be believed, then not knowing won't go on forever. There's something to look forward to. And if our response is, I don't know about that. Well, of course we don't. We're still in the dark. We're in the dark together. We're not relying on answer books or our own imaginations. We're riding on divine possibility. We come to this gathering and this table, seeds that we are, to absorb the promise, to make it a part of our being. We go out from this place with that promise in ourselves. Once in a while, in the lives we live, we embody a parable, which is to say, we give to others what we have been given, a hint of the promise. Not the answers to all the questions or needs of the world, but an ambiguous, incomplete suggestion that keeps hope and curiosity and possibility alive, that insists what is hidden now will be disclosed. What is now secret will come to light. There is a future beyond our imagination. Come along for the ride. Amen.